Hello, it's Burgess Taylor, and I have with me Tamara Woods, otherwise known as PenPaperPad. Hello,
Hey
Tamara.
everybody. Hi.
How are you this evening?
I am doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I am so ready to talk about writing.
Let's do it.
It is Writer Wednesday for those of you who are curious, and Tamara and I met through YouTube, through, I guess now it's AuthorTube, but I will always think of it as WriteTube. Um, and I'm not exactly sure how we met. Do you remember?
Let's see. It was NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. I know it was that.
I do
And
too.
we were both making videos. And at the time, there weren't a lot of people making videos about writing on YouTube. There was more like instructional videos and workshop type of things, but not just individuals like me and you talking about our experiences. And I can't remember who found who first.
I
I
think
just remember that we just started chatting in the comments
I
and friendship happened.
I know it was that first year I was on YouTube because I did that first set of videos, and I think it was that first set of preparing for NaNoWriMo videos that I did when we first met each other. But I don't remember whether it was your video or my video. Speaking of, how long have you been on YouTube?
Let's see. I've been on YouTube as a viewer since like the inception of it, but I started creating videos when I moved out here to Hawaii in 2012. But when I started doing them, I was just making any kind of video. I didn't really have any idea of what I could do. So I was just like, okay, I'll make videos. And I was doing like all these different type of tags for whatever. And I did the vlogging every day in April, and I was just making videos about anything. At one point I made like a cooking video, and y'all, I don't cook, but here I was just making cooking videos, just doing whatever. And then I stumbled across Catty-tastic, her videos about books and writing, and I was like, wait, you could do that? Wow. This is the stuff I really like. So then I started doing that, and that was around my birthday, which is December 6th. So it was around my birthday, maybe I'm gonna say 3 or 4 years ago.
That's longer than that because I've been on YouTube now for October was 3 years. And I know you've been doing writing videos longer than I have.
Oh gosh, so 4?
And I think you just had your 4-year writing YouTube video anniversary. What made,
Oh,
so when did you start writing?
Well, I wrote my first short story when I was in the first grade, and it was about a farming family who found this magic ring that made them all very rich. And then I wrote my first poem when I was 12. This boy who broke my heart.
I think a lot of people who write poetry start out of sadness for some reason.
I think it's just a good way to process your emotions and your thoughts. And especially I was kind of a shy girl, so I didn't really talk about how I was feeling to people. I'm the youngest in my family, so I would make a lot of jokes, but I didn't really tell people how I was feeling about stuff. But with poetry, I could.
I started journaling out of really Dear Diary at 7 after my daddy died. And the Christmas before that, I had gotten like a bunch of books for Christmas, and I had gotten the diary, and I'm pretty sure it was the Christmas before because my daddy died in April. And so by the time I was like at the end of the 3rd grade, I was reading like a 6th or a 7th grade reading level. But Snoopy's, well, Charles Schultz's Snoopy It was a dark and stormy night. That was what made me want to be a writer. Um, it was the idea of writing, and that I loved books, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a writer. I want to write books so people can read them, because books and diary style journaling, that whole thing, that saved my life back then. Because although I'm the oldest, it's just me and my younger brother. Losing a parent at such a young age like that, I went from being an extrovert to being an introvert. I went from talking and being a chatterbox to not talking really at all for a whole year after he died. All of my talking was done in that diary for the most part. So I know it. Now I'm an introverted extrovert, or an ambivert. um, there are times when I'm more chatty, but YouTube was a way for me to interact with other people of like mind, uh, and share, because this whole creative life as an artist of any kind is quite solitary. So it's always great when you find
When
a
I
community.
started I started posting on YouTube here because, one, I didn't know anybody, I didn't have any friends here, and I was lonely. And two, I wanted to show my friends and family that I was all right. Everyone was freaked out that I was moving from West Virginia to Hawaii. Everyone was freaked out. At first, no one believed me that I was coming. They're like, "No, you're just." And I was like, "But when do I ever? If I tell you I'm gonna do something crazy, I'm doing it." Like, it's a big thing. I don't know why, but if I say that I am gonna throw myself out of a plane, then I'm doing it. So I started making these videos so that they could have a way to see what I was doing and kind of check in on me. And then I figured out that I liked it because when I started doing the writing and the books videos, because here I don't really have a writing community. I've met some people, but I didn't feel like I fit anywhere. Um, there's one writing group that has mostly older women in it, like everyone's in 60s or above. Like, I was the spring chicken in the group, right? And so I was like, this doesn't really work out. And the poetry, there is a poetry scene, but the people who are more involved with poetry are in college. So they're all much younger than me, which feels very awkward. And I don't want to be hanging out and feeling like I'm everybody's mom. Like, I don't want that. So, and then I found like a NaNoWriMo group, and I would hang out with them occasionally, but I always just felt really awkward. And it's nothing that they did. They're perfectly nice people, but I just felt really awkward. I just couldn't relax. And I always felt like I needed to like be, I don't know, just be at attention at all times. It was very weird. But with doing YouTube, I felt like I could communicate and I could connect to people. We could talk about stuff that I like and that everyone else likes, because if you're looking at my video, then you like this stuff. So we could talk about it, and it just felt really comfortable. So I guess that's why I keep coming back to making videos.
One of the other things, you wear a lot of hats. One of the other things that you do is host the Right Stuff tweet chats on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. What do you think about those, and how did you get into it, and how's it going?
I got into it through a Facebook group. They used to host Right Stuff, and they did it all the time. And at that time, there wasn't as many writing tweet chats that were happening, so it would trend often, and like it was just a much bigger thing. But then they started dropping off, and then the people who were hosting it, no one wanted to host it anymore. And I thought that it was a really good way to connect with new people and kind of talk about different topics. But when they would do it, it was very different from how I do it. I developed a structure because the way they had it, it was almost a free-for-all, so people would be talking over each other, and there wasn't a clear stream of conversation. So if you were someone new who was coming in there, what's going on? Because there's just so many conversations that you couldn't keep track. So I started doing it, and I was like, hey, do you guys mind if I do this? And they were like, all right, we don't care, because we're pretty much not going to do this anymore anyway. And I was like, okay, then. So that was, oh, hell, what, 3 years, 4? I don't know. Clearly, I am not good with time, but it was some time ago. And I've been doing it ever since, every Tuesday. I think I've probably missed maybe 5 or 6 times. It's pretty much on clockwork, because I really like to connect with writers, and I like to connect other writers, because it is so solitary. And sometimes you forget that there's other people who are doing this same crazy thing that you are, and we're all in this together. And we need support to get through it sometimes. Sometimes it's just, you need someone to say, hey, I'm there too. And then you can like let out a sigh of relief and be like, oh, okay. Or I've been there, and you'll get through it, you know?
You're not alone.
You're not alone. That's why actually that's why every chat in the beginning I say hi so I'm not alone. Because when I first started hosting it, that other group totally dropped out. No one was coming at all. And so felt like I was just tweeting out into the universe and I couldn't tell if anyone was there. So I was like, I wonder if I tell them to say hi to me, if they'll say hi back. Say hi so I'm not alone. And then people started saying hi, and I was like, oh, it worked. There's people there. Yeah.
Yeah, we need that engagement. I think the engagement is really important. Another thing that you do that engages people in the writing community is the hashtag WriteTube on YouTube and I guess Twitter and elsewhere. Every year around October, in preparation for NaNoWriMo, you have been hosting that. Is it 2 or 3 years now?
Let's see. We did, by the first video that I post, because each time I do introduces whoever is going to be watching this series into what's going on, and they all have a different theme, and they're kind of ridiculous, and I have as much fun with it as possible, because I think that it all should just be good fun. So I did one where I did a rap battle with myself. I did one where I met the evil form of me. And what was last year's?
Halloween.
Oh no.
Halloween?
Was it Halloween?
Yeah, you did the Halloween,
yeah.
the dress up every video, I believe. So this was the 3rd year you did it.
Yeah, this was the 3rd year. And so what happens is there's usually 12 authors, and one person will post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, different topics that are associated with National Novel Writing Month or NaNoWriMo, whether it's figuring out characters, or how do you outline if you don't like to outline, different things like that, just to address different topics. And it's a good way to get people thinking about it, getting people in the mood, and also get people to chat with each other about Nano, because one of my favorite aspects of Nano is that community.
And it's a good way for us to find other writers on YouTube, because every year I've noticed that there have been a couple of different participants. So it's been really fun meeting other writers and getting to know them.
It's been great. And I don't even know if I told you this, but I got to write a post for the NaNoWriMo website. I don't know if they heard about Project WriteTube or what, but so I got to post on their blog.
Okay, I need a link. I need a link for that, because no, I did not know. So I need a link for that, because I have to read it.
Okay, I'll give you a link.
your right to videos, so that people know. Mr. Rockstar watches music videos. He'll watch funny videos sometimes, but he doesn't really watch the journal videos or the art videos or the writer videos that I watch or the DIY videos unless it's like fixing something in the house or the car.
Mm.
But he will watch every year when Tamara does these right to videos. He will ask me when Tamara's coming out with her next video, and he will watch Tamara's videos with me because he absolutely loves them.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad because I have the best time with those. They, I don't know, like at one point, one video last year, I was a freaking butterfly. That was the entire concept was me being a butterfly, fluttering around, trying to figure out a story. Like absurd, but it's just so much fun. And I think that a lot of times writers take themselves way too serious. Like I love writing. I'm very passionate about it. I want to be a better writer. I want to, one day be a New York Times bestselling author and stuff. But I still like to poke fun at myself, and I'm not afraid to be a little ridiculous.
And they're very engaging. And for some people who are, and I have to say that there are a lot of us out there who are creative people who are introverts. So when you have somebody who engages you the way that you can with these videos, and they are very engaging. They make somebody like me who's more serious, whose anxiety would never allow them to do that. I did dress up this past Halloween though. I wore the blonde wig and the hat and stuff, and I actually did a video. I was like very impressed with myself.
I saw that.
Mr. Rockstar started laughing. He was like, "You go, baby." I got out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I can do it sometimes. But I find that it really helps you kind of let loose. I can watch you do those videos, and I loved the good, evil Tamara. That so resonated with me, and it was the truth. I mean, we go through that, you know. Um, the self-doubt and stuff does that a lot to us, unfortunately. But I find that when you can engage your audience in that way, people are much more likely to not take themselves so seriously either. I can watch your video and I can laugh at myself, and I can go, see, you did that. Say, you do that. And it makes you feel better because one, you're not alone. And two, it's always a good thing when you can laugh at yourself, or maybe it's laughing with yourself. Maybe that's a better term. And I think it's a really good way to, one, have some fun, and two, let people know that NaNoWriMo, just like that video you're talking about, it's fun, but it also has a serious side that helps you get more engaged with your writing so that you can make a daily habit or a weekly habit, however your writing goes, you can make it more of a habit.
And you can return to it, and you can take it a little bit more seriously if that's what you want. I think that it's important for writers to be honest with themselves. If this isn't something that you want as a career, that's fine. It doesn't have to be. But if you want it to be something that you constantly engage with, that you come back to, just so that you can communicate better, or so that you can write better, or so that you can finally get those characters out of your head that have been living there for God knows how long, and you're just ready to get them out, and then you have that opportunity. It's like giving yourself permission to try. I really feel like that's what NaNoWriMo does. It just gives you permission to try it out. And writing 50,000 words in a month sounds crazy anyway. So it's like this crazy exercise that the first time you try it, you're like, well, I ain't going to do this. I'm not actually going to hit this 50K, but I'm going to try. And it gives you permission to just do the writing and see what happens. I think it's important that, whatever your creative outlet is, that you allow yourself that opportunity to try and to experiment and just sometimes figure it out along the way
And to have fun.
and to have fun.
So you are a published author. And I wanted
Ooh.
to get your thoughts on one, the being published, your process, what you published, what you have published, your process, and a little bit about that.
I'm looking over here, this collection of poetry. Oh, this book doesn't look very nice, but I published this in 2004, The Shaping of an Angry Black Woman, and it's through, it's through a very, very small press called Secura Publishing. And that's the only thing that was kind of traditionally published. And then I did a collection, or I'm sorry, a poetry anthology for the Reverie Journal, which is an online poetry site that I'm an editor for. And we did an anthology in, I'm going to say 2015. And then in 2016, and that was self-published. And then in 2016, I self-published the Appalachian Terror Trail. And that was a anthology of short stories from people from all over the country. That everything was horror stories that were set in Appalachia. And when I did the traditional publishing, I realized that I like to have more control, and I like to know more of what's happening. And self-publishing, even though it's harder because everything is up to you. And if you want to have some type of editing crew, if you want to have someone who's doing your advertising for you or creating those covers for you, whatever it is, you have to step up and manage all of it. So that's difficult, but I like a challenge, and I like having, even though the startup costs can be a little bit higher, I like having that bigger percentage in the end of my earnings, even though right now the earnings aren't huge, but everything, you have to put out more books and it starts to accumulate as time goes on. So I think I'll be self-publishing for a while. That's going to be my plan.
I'm subscribed to an indie it's an indie author group, or it has to do with indie writers. They talk about indie writers, and it gives you information. They do newsletters and blog posts and stuff about information that helps indie authors. I'm not a published writer I haven't published anything since high school and college. That I did some anthologies, but I never got paid for it. It just went out in an anthology, some poetry. And I had one short story published back in high school, and another short story published. The only works I've actually had published, like other than that, would be I wrote newspaper articles for our high school and for the college I went to. But I noticed with indie authors and self-published authors, there's quite a bit of difference, and people tend to sort of look down sometimes on self-published authors. But I've read some really great books that were written by self-published authors. And I think for the most part, most of the reason that most people self-publish is so that they can have more control. The only thing that worries me for myself is the technical part of things like book covers and things like that. So I think it's really great that there are all these things out there that are available now, whereas a decade ago they weren't, for self-published authors, where you can find information about how to either create your own book cover or listings for people who do create book covers. and things like that. So I think it's really great. The process of it must be kind of complicated though.
It is. I think that once it's, and with anything, you just have to do your diligence, join groups, watch videos, read blog posts, do all of that so that you can learn how to create your own process. And, you know, there's definitely been stumbling blocks. There's definitely been times when it was a lot harder, and I am nowhere near an expert. I'm still learning. I'm still processing. I'm still moving along, you know, but as long as I keep moving forward, I feel like I will get to the point where I feel like I'm a success in my chosen field, because this is what I want to do with my life.
So
Self-publishing novels.
how's your latest novel coming?
I am at revision number 3 million. Blood Roses and Honeysuckles. And it's the story of this girl. Her name is Adeline White Cotton, and she is from a small town in West Virginia. And she wakes up one day and parts of her memory is gone, and she was in some type of accident. No one will tell her exactly what happened because they want her to remember things as organically as possible. And she's been in this accident and her legs are burnt. And as the book goes along, she learns what happened. She learns about her past, and she kind of tries to reconcile who she was with who she is now. And then she has a best friend who is on a similar path of self-discovery. So their stories kind of intertwine, and so Addie's is part 1 and Bernie, her best friend, is part 2. So I'm at the point where I am editing Bernie's part 2 and trying to make sure that they both connect so that I can send them on to beta readers and then the editor, and then, my God, publishing it. I've had the cover for this thing for months. But, you know, and for a while I felt really bad that I didn't finish it as quickly as I wanted to. But after we had the false alarm with the missile here, I thought, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that it's not done yet. I want it to be right. I want it to be as good as I can make it, and I don't want to rush it anymore. I want to enjoy this process. I've been putting so much pressure on myself that it was making me anxious, and it was making me not work on it. It was making me shy away from it because I don't know, I was just putting so much pressure that it had to be perfect. But what is that? What is perfect? So it was like I was throwing myself against this brick wall of, you're not doing this great enough, and this isn't going to be a good enough book, and people are going to hate it, and this, that, and the other, and like all these self-talk that was just totally undermining me, and it was making me just hate the writing process. So I had to stop and reevaluate and figure it out that no, I'm not perfect, but it could still be good even if it's not perfect. And even books that are traditionally published are not perfect.
No.
So I shouldn't expect perfection from me when these people who have been doing this for decades aren't perfect.
What you're reading, when you read a published book, is a book that's been edited who knows how many times. Most of the time, if it's traditionally published, it's been edited by a professional editor. And sometimes you still get books that are traditionally published with errors and stuff in them, and they've been edited by a professional editor. So aiming for perfection is, I don't know, but I'm glad that you're past that point. because I can't wait for this book to come out. Is this going to be, this is, you have two books for this, or is it one book with two stories?
This is um this is one book, and then it's going to be a little trilogy. There's going to be this book, and then I have another book, and then the novella that's going to tie the two together. So it's going to be like a little bit of a trilogy there. And then I have the cozy mystery that I am working on, but that's more projected for like the end of the year. But can't wait. So much stuff to put out into the world. I'm so excited to do it.
I'm
It's
so
going to be
excited for
great.
you. I can't wait for that novel. I have read your Reverie book, the anthology. That was really good. And I read your poetry book, and that was really good. So I'm anxiously awaiting this other book. I will be more than welcome. I will be a beta reader if you need a beta reader.
Heck yeah.
I am I'm a content reader. So I will pick up a few grammar, but most of the time I read for content. I'm that kind of beta.
That's perfect.
I don't
That's
really,
what I'm going to need.
there are so many other people out there who, and I will pick up grammatical mistakes, but there are so many other people who do that way better than I do. When I read for content. But one of my questions is, what is your very favorite part of the writing process?
Drafting, rough drafts. I love the sparkle of a new idea and getting to expound on it. And I'm mostly a pantser, which means I write by the seat of my pants, or I discover as I go along. And I'll create a very, 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 very loose outline that's like a couple lines per chapter, but just to kind of keep me on some sort of path that makes sense. But mostly I just like to discover the story as I'm writing. And I'm one of those people that I like to drive where I don't know where I'm going, and I'll just go and just figure it out as I go along and take different roads. Even if, heck, today going home from Sam's Club, I took us on a totally different route for no reason. And my boyfriend was like, I don't know where we are. And I was like, I don't either. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, you never take us on the same path twice. I'm like, why should I? There's all kinds of roads to take. And that's just the fun of writing to me too. I like to take the roads and see where it's going to go. So yeah, drafting. Mwah.
You're definitely a Robert Frost, the road less traveled there. I like to take different routes home, and I'll do that sometimes. Luckily, though, Mr. Rockstar is from here, so I don't get lost very often because he knows his way around everywhere around here. But I'm not originally from here, so sometimes he'll take me on a shortcut or somewhere, and he'll go, and I'm like, "Where are we?" And then he's like, "I know where we're at." And I'm like, "Okay, well, just don't expect me to go this way unless you tell me where we're at." But I will enjoy the view, and and then every now and again I'll try to go that shortcut, but I end up finding a completely different shortcut from the shortcut that I thought I was on, and that's okay because it's enjoyable. But one of the other questions I had, and I'm hoping it hasn't slipped my mind. Okay, I know. Since you are a discovery writer, do you know the end of your novel before you like
No,
past the first chapter? Do you know your end beforehand?
no, no. Okay. I was doing a live stream. I was just like a participant in it, and this guy named Ben, he has a YouTube channel, and he was doing the live stream, and we were doing writing sprints. So we were at that point that we just finished writing sprint, and everyone was kind of talking about it. This was during NaNoWriMo, and we were mid-month, and I was writing on the cozy mystery, and I said, how many words I'd written or whatever, and I was like, oh, I just figured out what my main character's name is. And he was like, we're like 16 days in and you're just figuring out your main character's name. She hadn't told me what it was yet. What do you want from me? So no, I'd let everything just kind of happen in an organic way. If something, now for finding like last names, I'll look it up. But for the first name, I either will brainstorm or I'll have a friend of mine who is very good at naming things, and we'll like toss ideas back and forth. And with the end, even I've noticed that even if I think of an ending, I won't end up there, but I'll end up somewhere that's even better. So I don't really try to plan it out. I just let it happen. And then go back later and edit and edit and edit and edit and edit some more.
I like to have a general idea of my beginning, middle, and end, or what I think. And then I've noticed that I flip-flop back and forth because of self-doubt so much that as I thought about things this past NaNoWriMo, and this was a rough NaNoWriMo for me this last November, I wrote words, or maybe the words wrote me, I'm not quite sure, but winning NaNoWriMo was an accomplishment. The words, however, will probably never go, most of the words will probably never go in my Witchy Business novel. I had a good idea, and I am going to go with that good idea, but I'm going to take this April's NaNoWriMo, the camp, to really get going with my original outline for that novel. Even if it means I have to watch my YouTube videos and take notes. And it's good that I did that process with the tarot, because that was my original, when I did that very first tarot, for, writing it out with the tarot. And
yeah, you did the tarot for Hero's Journey.
I had really great ideas originally when I pulled those cards, and I filmed a lot of that. And I realized that I just needed to write this past November. My dad had died the month before, so all of that outlining I was going to do in October with tarot didn't really get done. Right. And the more I wrote, the more I realized I was just writing to write. I was writing to get ideas down. I was writing to get the words out. And as much as they sucked, it was okay, because I got them out. I got them down on paper, or in a computer screen, because I hand wrote and I did work on the computer in Scrivener. I did both, depending on what I was doing and where I was at and what was going on. That was a need. Now I'm at this place where I've been reviewing some of what I have previously, and I have some really good stuff with it, but it needs to all be pulled into a cohesive whole. So I thought, you know what, instead of trying to redo a bunch of stuff, I will go through later in the editing process, because I have a lot of it printed out, and highlight the things I want to keep in the old stuff to add into the new stuff. But I'm going, right now I've been working on the outline, a little bit by little bit, watching a little bit of the video, writing down some stuff, the old videos. And that, I think, is where I'm at. It's not, and I don't know the end anymore. I have the end in that video, but I don't remember, because I've changed things up from flip-flopping. Thank you, self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all that good stuff that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist Way. I let self-doubt eat at me to the point where I questioned whether it would be a good novel. And I know damn well that it would be a really good novel. It's a really good idea, and I feel it in here. Up here keeps saying, wait a minute. So I've got to go within here. So this may be a novel that, other than what I have with the tarot, which are general ideas, between the tarot cards and the hero's journey, general ideas of the character arc. And that's it. And I think for me, that's enough because I really do need to kind of ground myself with a little bit of it. But the rest of it, I need to do discovery writing because that's where my roots are as a pantser. But I've noticed that because of my anxiety, I do need a little bit, of an outline.
Right. Well, that's good. You've figured out what works for you. You know, I think that sometimes people feel as though they either have to outline or they have to not outline because that's what writers do. But writers do whatever works for each person. That's why there's so many different paths. And some people, they do different things for different books. They might not even have the same path that they take for each book, and that's fine, whatever works. I don't write, like, the way I write novels is not the same way that I write blog posts or articles or poetry or short stories. Everything, I do things with whatever works for that thing that I'm writing. And like with the article or a blog post, I'm way more likely to outline it and figure out I'm going to hit this, and this point. And it's very much more, it's not a formula, but I just think it through more in the beginning of it, because it's going to be 500 to 1,500 words, and I have to make sure I get these points and do the thing. Whereas with a poem, I just let my words flow, and whatever happens happens. And then later on, I'll try to figure out even what it means or what I was trying to say.
When I write blog posts, a lot of times, and some things, when I plan out certain kinds of videos, I think a lot about that when you're in journalism and they teach you the what, when, where, how, why kind of thing, where I answer all those main questions. And that's what I think about with some things. But other things, I get an idea and I do a bunch of mind mapping, and then I go. I'm just like, I get all the ideas out on paper so that I can kind of see them, and then I connect the dots. Okay, I had a question. Your favorite book of all time? Fiction. We're going to start with fiction.
I'm really bad at questions like that. Favorite book of all time? I don't know.
Favorite childhood book?
Favorite childhood book? A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I loved that book, and I also loved. It was a book that I read in my childhood, but it's not really a childhood book. But it was a V.C. Andrews book, My Sweet Audrina. I read the heck out of that book. My mom's best friend had given her a whole bunch of V.C. Andrews books, and I read them, but my mom hadn't read them, and I'm sure if she had, she would not have let me read those things. But I read them, and that book was so fascinating to me. It was so horrible, but it was so well written, and the story was so weird, and I just kept going back to it. It was like anytime I used to get sick a lot, I'd had like childhood bronchitis, so when I would get sick, that was like the book I would read. It was like my sick book. I don't know. I was a weird kid.
Favorite nonfiction book?
Favorite nonfiction book? What's it called? Bird by Bird.
I love that book. That's one of my favorites too.
Bird by Bird. I was looking over here at my bookshelf, but I have a cloth in front of it, so I can't see my books. So it was no help at all.
Favorite writing related book?
Favorite writing related book?
Other than Bird by Bird.
The favorite writing related book, there's this, I love this one. And I don't read it as often as I should.
I have
Wonder
that.
Book.
I have that. That's one of my favorites too. When
Jeff
I need
Vander.
motivation or inspiration, I go to that book.
It's so beautiful, y'all. Like, just look how pretty it is. You know, if you are a writer and you you know whether it's whether even if you don't write fantasy and like sci-fi and stuff like that, this is just really good to help you to learn about different aspects of world building, and it's so beautiful, and there's so many really cool authors that contribute to this. This is like, to me, it's like this is a college level book on writing. Like this could be a class.
But it's creative. It's not dry at all. It's not
Oh
dry.
no, it's not dry in the least.
So one of the books that you suggested a long while back was this. She's a writer and an artist. And as a writer and an artist, I find myself completely
Ooh.
and utterly drawn to this. Let's see. This is how she gets her ideas and journaling, and I mean she has bits, snippets and stuff of things that she's writing in this book. She calls it a creative method of, it's like a play. It's how she, this is a really good way to get rid of writer's block, that's for sure. When you're stuck, you know, I get this book out, or I get the Wonder book out, and those are the books that whenever I am creatively stuck, no matter what way I am creatively stuck, either one of these books, this book and the Wonder book that you showed, those are the books that help me most of the time get unstuck.
It's funny how we both have them like right here within reach. Like, boom, there it is.
My Wonder book is right down there. Some of the other books, I like Chuck Wendig's The Kick-Ass Writer. When I need to kick myself in the butt and get motivated and to the nitty-gritty, I read his book.
I haven't read any of his books, which is ridiculous because I've read I don't know how many of his blog posts, and I love his writing. And you know, if any of you have been to #WriteStuff, then you might have even seen that a lot of times I had to stop myself from posting all of his links all the time. I was like, all right, there's other resources, but I just love his writing advice. And
if you want his blog in book form, that's the book to get.
What is it called? I'm taking notes, y'all. I'm always taking notes. The Kick-Ass Writer. Ooh, okay.
But do you have any other hobbies other than writing and reading?
You know, I think of YouTube as a hobby, really. It's not something that I'm doing for any type of payment or anything like that. It's fun, and it's like a weird thing that a lot of people, especially people our age, aren't really doing, you know? Like, it's just weird to everyone who's outside of the YouTube world, whether you're a viewer or you're a content creator, you kind of get it. But if you're neither one of those, you're like, why are you doing this? And by doing YouTube videos, I've learned about how to create video, and learning about playing with sound and playing with color and video, and just learning how to tell a story in a visual way, whereas before with words. So that's been an interesting kind of like learning curve. Let's see what else. I play a lot of dumb games on my phone. I play so many dumb games on my phone, and it's a secret, but for my boyfriend's birthday, his birthday was on Saturday and it hasn't came in yet, but I ordered him a PlayStation 4. So we're gonna be like doing all kinds of gaming here. So that's a secret. Y'all getting secret. But yeah. So games and video making, and of course reading. Oh my god, I read so much.
Lately, I've been reading a lot more art books, a lot more nonfiction, a lot more self-help DIY, like how to vlog like a boss, how to blog, I've got the Daily Writer, which is really good for writing prompts. I've been reading a book called You Are a Badass, which is a really great self-help book. I've been reading all kinds of things lately. Excuse me. And I haven't really done very much in the way of fiction reading lately. I think that's because I haven't, one, been able to really afford books much. And two, I keep looking at the books that I do have that I haven't read yet. And I'm like one of the books I started, and then I got really busy with something else, a project, and that I haven't finished, but I really, really want to finish, is this book.
Oh, I want to get that.
And I decided that since I'm reading all this nonfiction, that I am going to devote some time to reading this book. I want to finish this book. I read the first chapter, and then a project came up and something else happened, and I forgot all about it. And then I was cleaning in here, as some of you can see now. This is different now. I've been cleaning and organizing and rearranging. I found the book, and I was like, so I'm really excited because I love anything that has to do with mythology. So the fact that Neil Gaiman wrote this about Norse mythology, and it's I like his writing, and it's a work of fiction, but it's based on Norse mythology, so I find it fascinating.
I love his writing. I got introduced to his writing via his graphic novels, and oh man, it's good stuff. So yeah, tell me how that is once it's done.
I will let you know. I think I might actually do a review on my website, on the blog. I don't really do too many book reviews on YouTube. Every now and again, if it's excellent, if it's awesome, I'll do a review. But I don't do book reviews the way most people do book reviews. Just, to me, if it engages me and I get stuck in it and I don't want to put it down, that's all I need to know, to me.
Yeah.
It's either going to be a mediocre book, or it's going to be one of those books that I don't want to put down. If it's it can be somewhere in the middle of mediocre and I don't want to put it down. But if it's anything past mediocre, I'm just going to stop reading it, and then that'll be that. So I don't really do a lot of book reviews on YouTube. I watch BookTube sometimes, but I read more adult, contemporary, thriller, suspense, mystery, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, and some young adult. But I've noticed that a lot of BookTube is mostly young adult.
Yeah. Yeah, I go through phases. Sometimes I read young adult, but mostly I read adult. And I have been reading a lot of cozy mysteries. And I think that because 2017 was kind of a rough year, I needed an escape. I needed just a story where I knew the end was fine and everyone was okay and the good guy would win. Like I needed to read that the good guy would win. So I think last year the majority of the books I read were cozy mysteries. And now
it's been a while since I've read a cozy mystery, so I might have to get some names of books from you, and find some at the library, because I like cozy mysteries. I like mysteries in general. I was so sad to hear about Sue Grafton. That really just, I love her books.
I like her too. I like her books. And did she pass at the beginning of this year,
She
or
just
was it the end of last year?
it was, I think it was the beginning of this year. I know her daughter put on Facebook that the series the Kinsey series will end with Y,
Yeah, we'll end with why.
because Mrs. Grafton didn't want any ghostwriters or anything, so it ends.
Which I can totally respect. I can totally respect them.
After reading some of the books that have been written by other people for people who passed away, Robert Jordan is a big one for me. I loved Robert Jordan's books. After a while, they got a little bit redundant, but Robert Jordan was a really great writer. And not that I don't like Brandon Sanderson. And he is who finished that last book, the for Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. And it was good, but you could really tell that it wasn't Robert Jordan. And the other person that did a book like that was the girl from the Hornet's Nest style, Steele Largeson, or the girl from the,
Was the girl with the dragon tattoo?
yes. So the guy who wrote that died, and they had somebody else, David Lagerkrantz, wrote this, which is a Elizabeth Salander novel, because Steve Larson is the guy who wrote The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And this is good writing, but you can tell, again, you know, so in a way,
I haven't read that one. I've read the other 3 books, but I haven't read that one.
well, I haven't finished this one.
Oh,
So that, yeah. So I'm determined to finish it. So I do have some books to read, but I thought about it and I was like, you know what I'm going to do before I do this is start with the very first book again, because I have the box set of the first 3 books. And I had the original when it first came out. I gave those to my daughter, and I bought myself another box set. So I'm going to reread. And I thought, you know what? I'll start from the very beginning, and then maybe I'll actually write some blog post about this stuff, because I still want to finish, excuse me, I still want to finish the Stephen King series books. I started writing about those, and I am on the Wind Through the Keyhole.
wow.
I'm reading through them. Most of them I'm actually reading as they were published. That's the only one I really took out of order, because he wrote that much later, but I'm reading that in the order of how the Dark Tower. I'm reading the connected books as far as how they were published, and then as the years go, then I'm reading the Dark Tower books. So I'm still reading, but I just took a break. Last year started in July. Last year was a year for me too.
Yeah.
And I would read to escape, but this year I wrote and I created art to escape. And when it got really bad, when I couldn't create art, and I wrote, and then I went back to reading, and I read fluff. I went back to some of the books that I read as a kid. I read Stuart Little. I read a lot of books that I read as a kid. I reread a lot of Harry Potter, and not that I think those are fluff, but for me now, I read those when I want to enjoy, just have fun. The more, middle school age, I like reading stuff like that when I want to just have some fun. And some of those I can read aloud to Victor, and it makes it a lot more fun. I read a lot of Stuart Little aloud to him, and he enjoyed it.
Aw, that's wonderful.
So yeah, so we've covered writing, we've covered hobbies, we've covered a lot of the stuff that you do on social media. So anything else that Tamara Woods does, because I know you wear a lot of hats?
Geez, what else do I do? Let's see. So I write the books and I do the right stuff in Project RightTube and
Read the books.
I read the books and I'm like looking over here like, what do I do?
You have a newsletter and you have a website.
Yeah, I have this too. I do have a newsletter and a website. I'm glad that you're more on top of my game than I am.
Yeah, well, like I said, ADHD, I wrote it down. I'm going to leave the links for Tamara's social media stuff, all the places you can find Tamara in the description below for this. And I'm going to write a blog post about it. Pretty soon, Tamara's going to do an interview with me, and she's going to ask me some questions. So if there are some questions that you would like for Tamara to ask me, please put them below, and I'll make sure Tamara gets them. Or I can leave you a link for some stuff for Tamara, and you can let Tamara know.
Either way works.
And we will set up a time, and we'll tweet and Facebook and all that stuff out for when Tamara's actually going to do the interview for me. We'll make sure that y'all get the links for all that good stuff. Anything you'd like to say before we go?
I'm going to be starting a short story serial on my newsletter. So that link, you should definitely click it because I'm going to be having a story that's a not so cozy mystery. And we're going to be exploring a story. And by the end of the year, we'll know who done it.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating, Tamara. I really enjoyed this. I know this is probably way longer than I intended, but that's quite okay. I really enjoyed myself.
I did too. And it's always longer when we get to yabbing.
Yeah. I'm sorry that Persephone couldn't join us. We really need to do another chat with Persephone pretty soon. You know, when you go through the holidays and all of that stuff, people get really busy. And then it always seems like after the holidays, you seem even busier after the holiday, catching up from all the things from the holiday.
Exactly. So, by March we should be back on track.
Yeah, I'm thinking RightTube March in preparation for April, or is RightTube just an October thing?
It's just an October thing, but we could do a different thing.
Yeah, we could definitely do a different thing. I think we should do some kind of collabs for NaNoWriMo for the camp. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Even, yeah, I like that idea.
I do too. We'll have to chat about it.
We'll definitely have to chat about it. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. If you have any questions or anything, please put them down below, and Tamara's links down below. Y'all should check out her videos. And I'm telling you, the RightTube videos rock. Not that Tamara's other videos don't rock, because they do. She just had a really good video about writing goals that you should check out. And I will see y'all again soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.
Bye.